All right, everybody, this is Christopher Bruno again, the Red Independent, and I wanted to do another quick video this afternoon in regards to this tweet on X from Representative Thomas Massey. I'm, for the most part, a big fan of Representative Massey. There's a few things that he's done recently that I find myself raising my eyebrow a bit, but for the most part, that's how it should be with any politician. There should never be a politician that out there that you look at and go, yeah, I'm going to agree with everything that this man says. I don't agree with everything Trump does. You shouldn't. I think there's a lot of appeasement going on. I think part of Trump's problem in his first term was appeasement, hence John Bolton in his cabinet. But Thomas Massey sends out this tweet from a few hours ago today. Already has 1 million views. Most intriguing policy idea from the GOP meeting at the Capitol Hill Club this morning. Trump briefly floated the concept of eliminating the income tax and replacing it with tariffs. Now, I mean, what bigger incentive for people to go out and work their ass off is there than removing the government from those people's pocketbooks? If I'm already being underpaid as it is, and let's face it, because of the slow degradation of the purchasing power of our dollar, nobody is currently being paid what they're worth. Very few people. If you remove that governmental barrier from people of money being robbed, and let's face it, nobody is happy with what government's doing with their money, you will incentivize an incredible boom of ingenuity, of just people being motivated to go out and make something happen because they know that 100% of the fruit of their labor is going into their pocket and they can decide what needs to happen with it past that point. I have said for years, and I've yet to hear a good argument back to me, if you're going to tax anybody for anything, tax them on the sale, not on their work. Tax them on the purchase, not on the work. Tax them on a transaction when it happens, and then float that percentage of taxation based on what's being purchased. And this wouldn't be a hard sliding rule to come up with. If I'm at the store and I'm buying eggs and bread, I should be taxed very little. If I'm making $15 or $20 an hour and I'm not being taxed, and I have rent to pay and I have to buy groceries, when I go to the grocery store, I should not be taxed if I'm only buying bread and eggs and a half a pound of ham. Now, if I'm going to the store and I want to buy caviar, well then yes, maybe a little bit of a higher tax bracket should be in place for that luxury. Maybe a simpler parallel here would be a vehicle. If I'm buying a car that's under $30,000, maybe a Honda or a Kia, I mean, you probably don't want to buy a Kia because the engine will probably blow up or be able to steal it on you. But if I'm buying a car so I can get back and forth to work, I should be taxed very little on that purchase. If I'm buying a work vehicle, a truck, even if it's a more expensive vehicle, if it's something that I need I shouldn't be taxed very much on that. I need that in order to add to the fruits of my labor. If I want to go and buy a 780 horsepower Corvette, then yes, tax me more. But don't tax me when I'm out there working, when I'm out there hustling, when I'm out there busting my ass. When you're out there busting your ass and they come in and they just take it from you. And they not only take it when you earn it, they take it when you spend it. If you own a home, you're now not only paying all those other taxes, but now you're paying a rent to the government every month. It's insane. The layers of taxation have you basically a slave. And look, and you might, some people might chop at that, but look, at the end of the day, if the government is taking 100% of everything that you earn, everybody can agree at that point in time you're a slave. If the government takes 50% of what you earn, are you 50% a slave? I would argue yes. And if I'm 50% a slave, well, then damn it, I'm a slave. So, Trump. First, you heard him floating the idea of ixnaying the income tax on tips for waiters and waitresses. I mean, when I first heard that, I'm like any time we can start chipping away at the illicit taxation of the common person by the government, who does no good with our money, again, that's a good step in the right direction. So when I saw that, I mean, there was pushback. You hear people all different directions. I saw some. I should have had one up. People that I think that are on our side saying, "Hey, maybe this isn't a good idea," or maybe they're just salty because their taxes aren't being addressed. Well, here it is. Trump briefly floating the concept of eliminating the income tax and replacing it with tariffs. I mean, that's how our country was originally founded. No income tax. We got till 1913 without the inception of the income tax. I didn't mean for this to be a real long video. I started rambling there, but I wanted to pulled this up straight from the IRS so we can know exactly where the income tax comes from and what it was, and it wasn't anywhere near what we're dealing with today. 1913 from the IRS's website, irs.gov. 1913, as the threat of war loomed, Wyoming. And the threat of war, obviously, they're speaking of is World War I, which we should not have been a part of, which leads me to believe that even back then, they knew that we were going to be in World War I before we were in World War I, and this was a setup to make sure that we could pay for it, but different topic. As the threat of war loomed, Wyoming became the 36th and last state needed to ratify the 16th Amendment. The amendment stated, Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. Later, Congress adopted a 1% tax, 1% on net personal income of more than $3,000. Now, think about that, $3,000 back then. I should have done the math. That's 100 times 10 is 50. It's 150 ounces of gold a year. So you had to make 150 ounces of gold a year before you were taxed that 1%. And 150 ounces of gold in 2024, simple math with gold at $2,000 an ounce is, that's a $300,000 wage. If I'm doing my math incorrectly there, please let me know. I did that real quick. $3,000 at $1,000, $20 gold piece, basically an ounce. That's 5 ounces per $100. That's 50 ounces per $1,000. Yeah, I think my math is right there. That's 150 ounces of gold. And 150 ounces of gold in 2024 is $300,000 a year. So you had to be making the equivalent and purchasing power of $300,000 a year when they passed this godforsaken law in order to be effectuated by a 1% tax. And then if you literally made at the time $500,000 a year, which again, I should have done the math before I started doing the video. I'm not going to break my brain. Somebody out there, if you happen to watch this video and you happen to hear this, if you want to do the math and throw it in the comments down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. But you had to make $500,000 a year in 1913 to be affected by a 6% tax on your income. And that is like Elon Musk type money. That was for the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, the Morgans. Not for you. Not for you. And to kind of go along with this, you've got this idiot that's in the Oval Office with our potato-in-chief, Kamala Harris. It's time. It's time billionaires pay their fair share. This hack, this just, oh my God, this woman. And Rick Rule, love him or hate him. I like Rick. I really like Rick. Madam, you Are you aware that 1% of Americans pay over 20% of the income tax and 5% of Americans pay over 50% of the income tax? I too believe they should pay their fair share, but I'm afraid we cannot find the money for their rebate. I mean, he hits the nail on the head right there. Look, I'm not rich. I would love to be rich. And when I do attain that, the last thing I want is the government taking half of my stinking money. Taking half of it now. But that said, if we could, I mean, the fact that it's even being discussed, allowing you to keep 100% of the fruits of your labor because you are truly the person who knows best what to do with your money. I can't think of anything that can be, as far as a stimulus goes, more effective in the history of economics. I believe that the explosion in technology, in innovation, and just in production that would happen would be looked back on for hundreds of years, if not millennia, as a turning point in human history. Now, is that gonna happen? I mean, is there any conceivable way that Trump would be able to make that happen? Is there any conceivable way that the people who have us in this mess, who have gotten filthy rich off of this system, are going to allow it to just go poof? Well, I think you and I both know that answer, but we can dream. Again, this is Christopher Bruno, the Red Independent, reminding you to never, ever underestimate their ability to keep this rig game going. Thanks for checking in. If you get an opportunity to, if you happen to listen to this and you get an opportunity to hit the subscribe button down below, hit a thumbs up, I'd greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day.